There is a name whispered in the hidden corners of the world, a name synonymous with defiance, Prometheus. Before he was a legend, he was a witness. Before he was a savior, he was a traitor. And before he became humanity's champion, he was a god, chained to a rock, his body a feast for the heavens. His crime, he loved you. He was a titan, ancient and powerful, one of the few who foresaw the fall of his kind and sided with the new gods. He had stood with Zeus as they cast their own brethren into the abyss of Tartarus. For this he was given a place of honor on Olympus. He walked the golden halls, listened to the thunderous proclamations of the new king, and saw the universe being remade. But unlike the other gods who saw only their own glory reflected in the cosmos, Prometheus looked down. He saw Earth, and he saw the fledgling race of mortals. They were Zeus's creation, but they were an afterthought. Brittle, naked things living in caves, shivering in the cold and starting at the shadows. They had no fire, no knowledge, no hope. To the gods they were little more than animals, a brief amusement in their eternal lives. Zeus saw them as ants to be ignored or crushed at his whim. But Prometheus saw something else. He was a seer, one who could perceive the shape of things to come. And in these shivering, pathetic creatures he saw a spark, a flicker of potential that no other god could comprehend. He saw the capacity for thought, for creation, for wonder. He saw artists, poets, builders, and thinkers all trapped in a prison of ignorance. He saw a flame waiting to be lit. To love them was to defy his king. To help them was to declare war on heaven itself. The other gods were content with the meaningless worship of a frightened species. But Prometheus knew that true reverence could not be born of fear. It had to be earned through wisdom and respect. And so in the silent halls of his mind a plan took root, a grand, terrible, and beautiful act of treason. He would not let that spark die in the cold darkness. He would climb the mountain of the gods one last time, not as a courtier but as a thief. Every step was a betrayal. Every corner turned an act of rebellion. Prometheus, once an honored guest of Olympus, now moved through its golden halls as a thief. He wasn't stealing gold or ambrosia, things the gods treasured. He sought something they considered worthless, yet guarded all the same, a single divine spark. His destination was the great forge of Hephaestus, the smith god. Here in the heart of the mountain, weapons of legend and artifacts of impossible power were born amidst the heat and chaos. It was here that the primordial fire, a flame stolen from the sun itself, burned eternal. Hephaestus, lost in his craft, felt nothing. But in that moment the fate of the cosmos shifted. Prometheus did not steal a raging inferno. He took only an ember, a seed of flame, a secret, tucked away in a simple reed. But it carried the power to unmake the world the gods had built. His descent was the reverse of his crime. He brought light into darkness, warmth into the eternal cold. He returned to the shivering creatures he had pitied, and presented them not with a command but with a gift. He knelt, and from the humble stalk a new star was born on earth. At first they feared it, as they feared all things. But this was a fear that did not bite. It was a warmth that did not burn. It was a light that did not blind. For the first time they saw each other's faces not in the stark light of day, but in the gentle community of a hearth. The long night was over, their story had begun. But a gift to humanity was a theft from the gods. And the king of the gods was not blind. From his throne Zeus saw the impossible, a light on earth that he had not commanded. He did not need to ask who had defied him, and he knew that this crime could not go unpunished. The fire did more than warm their hands. It lit a fire in their minds. Humanity awoke from its long, brutish slumber. They learned to shape the world, to ask questions of the stars, to build homes and communities. They were no longer animals hiding from the dark. They were becoming masters of their own destiny. But from his throne, Zeus watched this new world with a chilling patience. His revenge would not be a thunderbolt. It would be far more insidious. He commanded the gods to create a new being, a punishment disguised as a miracle. They called her Pandora, the all-gifted. She was crafted to be perfect, beautiful, and utterly irresistible, a weapon aimed at the heart of mankind. Prometheus had foreseen this. He had warned his simple-minded brother Epimetheus to fear the generosity of gods. But when Pandora arrived, her beauty a divine song, the warning was forgotten. Epimetheus, whose name means afterthought, saw only the gift, not the giver. He welcomed her into his home, and with her the doom of all mortals. She brought with her a single wedding present from Zeus, a heavy sealed jar, with the strict instruction that it must never be opened. But the same gods who gave her beauty also gave her a restless, insatiable curiosity. The jar sat in the corner, a silent promise, a maddening secret. What treasures could it hold? What divine wonders were locked away inside? Her curiosity, a fatal flaw engineered by the gods, finally won. She opened the jar, but it did not contain treasures. It contained every evil and sorrow that Zeus had conceived. Sickness, war, toil, and grief burst forth, a plague of darkness upon the new world. The golden age of man was over in an instant, drowned in a tide of suffering. Pandora, in terror, sealed the jar once more, but the world was already broken. All the gifts of the gods had flown out and could not be recalled. Yet in the bottom of the vessel, one last spirit remained, trapped by the hasty closing of the lid. It was not an evil. It was small and fragile and almost overlooked. Its name was Olympus, the Greek word for hope. Humanity was broken. The world was stained with sorrow. Zeus's poisoned gift had done its work, reminding mortals of their fragility. But the king's vengeance was not complete. The root of the rebellion, the source of the defiance, still had to be dealt with. The architect of humanity's awakening would now face the architect of the cosmos. There would be no trial, no plea for mercy. Prometheus's crime was self-evident. Zeus, in his terrible majesty, decreed the punishment. Not a swift end in the darkness of Tartarus, but an eternity of suffering in the light. He would be a lesson, a spectacle for any god or mortal who might ever again consider defying the throne of heaven. The bitterest irony was reserved for the smith. Hephaestus, from whose forge the stolen fire was taken, was now ordered to bind the thief. With a heavy heart he forged chains that could hold a Titan and led Prometheus to the desolate peak. He lamented the cruelty of his king, forced to chain his own kin to a rock at the edge of the world. And so the torment began. Zeus sent a final living instrument of his vengeance, a great eagle born of monsters. Every day it would fly to the mountain peak. Every day it would feast upon the immortal liver of the chained Titan. An agony without end for a crime Zeus could never forgive. But the body that can be broken is not the spirit that can be conquered. Each night his immortal flesh would heal, making him whole again for the next day's torture. Zeus intended this as the ultimate cruelty, an endless renewal of pain. But in doing so he created an endless symbol of endurance. Prometheus in his agony remained defiant. His punishment became his legend. For ages he remained chained, his suffering a testament to the tyranny of the gods. But his gift and his sacrifice were never forgotten. Down on earth, in the world of strife and sorrow, humanity struggled on. They were no longer innocent, but they were no longer ignorant. And in their hearts they carried two sparks from the heavens, the fire of knowledge and the stubborn, fragile hope for a better dawn. Eternity is a heavy word. Ages of men passed like seasons. Empires rose from dust and returned to it. The world forgot the face of the god who had given it fire. But the chains did not forget. And the eagle did not forget. The punishment was absolute, a fixed point in a changing universe. But Prometheus held a power greater than any chain, a secret. He alone knew of a prophecy that foretold the downfall of Zeus, a prophecy tied to a future bride and a son who would be greater than his father. The gods came to him not with mercy but with bargains. They offered freedom for the key to their king's survival. And in his silence the chained god found his final unbreakable defiance. Yet destiny is not the tool of gods alone. A new hero walked the earth, a son of Zeus himself, but with a mortal heart. His name was Heracles. His life was a tapestry of impossible labors, a journey forged in monsters' blood and divine cruelty. He was the strongest of all mortals, his fate woven on a path he did not understand. His journey brought him to the furthest, coldest edge of the world, to the desolate Caucasus Mountains. He was not seeking a god. He was completing a task, serving a punishment of his own. But fate, in its intricate design, had set his path to cross the lonely torment of the Titan. And then he saw a sight of injustice that stirred the hero's heart. He saw the eternal punishment, the symbol of Zeus's tyranny, and he acted. Not for prophecy, not for a secret, but because it was right. A single arrow fired by a mortal hand ended the immortal torment. He broke the chains of adamantine, ending the age-long punishment. In return for this act of compassion, Prometheus freely gave the secret that saved Zeus from his own downfall. The Titan who stole fire for man was freed by a man who walked like a god. His legend was no longer one of suffering, but of liberation, a reminder that even in the face of absolute power, hope can endure, and that the chains of tyrants are no match for the will of a hero.